Welcome to another NJCDC podcast from the Loft, located at NJCDC's Great Falls Youth Center in Paterson, New Jersey. Since our launch 6 months ago, we've had two objectives. Number one is to amplify the voice of youth on important matters of the day, and secondly, to educate our listeners on important state programs, particularly those within the Department of Community Affairs. Now, today is a very special podcast because we have with us the Lieutenant Governor of the great state of New Jersey, the Honorable Tahesha Way. Lieutenant Governor Way is no stranger to Paterson or to NJCDC, having served for many years as a Passaic County Commissioner. More recently, she has served as our state's Secretary of State, overseeing important areas that range from elections to the arts. And as of a little more than a year ago, she has served as our state's Lieutenant Governor under Governor Phil Murphy. So welcome, Lieutenant Governor Way, and let me also welcome someone who has become a good friend of ours. That's Kaya King, who serves as Chief of Staff at the state's Department of Community Affairs, and who, with her insight and also, I'm going to say, her mellifluous voice, has helped host a number of our recent podcasts about state government. And we're also joined by NJCDC's Director of Community Outreach, Eddie Gonzalez.
Welcome.
So today's podcast is all about our young people having an open discussion with you, Lieutenant Governor, about the important topic of voting and overall civic engagement. And in a minute, you will meet three wonderful young teens who are here to have this conversation with you today. Before we ask them to come to the microphone, though, I'd like to ask Kaya if there's anything that she'd want to add.
Thank you so much, Bob. And I am so excited for this episode. I have to say, just being in the room is just a manifestation of, I think, what we've been trying to talk about and move with the ball forward. Lieutenant Governor Way, thank you for being here. It's a privilege. And I echo Bob's sentence about this episode. What's so great about community conversations is it's been a way for us to introduce the connection between state and community. And the topic of civic engagement and election is so critical and important. And the timing is, kismet, which I know is one of our favorite words to use when we get to do this work. I feel like that's probably associated with Paterson in general.
I think so.
This gives us a real chance to hear your wisdom, Lieutenant Governor, but also have an incredible interactive conversation with some of our youth celebs from the area. So thank you. We are so delighted to have you. This is a grand experiment that we hope to continue. And this is going to be an instrumental part of building the support to get information out to every resident of New Jersey. So welcome. And I think it's ready to get the conversation started.
Yeah, so now Kai and Eddie and I are going to depart to the sidelines. And I'd like to welcome Kayla, Imani, and Eliani to the table.
Hello, Lieutenant Governor Way.
Hello there, Kayla.
So nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too.
I want to start with introductions, just everyone's names once again. I'm Kayla Wimberly. I'm a junior at John F. Kennedy High School.
I'm Imani Myers. I'm a senior at John F. Kennedy High School.
And I am Eliani Polanco, a senior at Kennedy High School.
Wonderful.
So the first question we would like to ask you is, how did you start your path to becoming Lieutenant Governor?
Okay, so I'm not going to do the War and Peace version for you guys, okay? I'll just, give like the small snapshot, right? But before I even do that, my heart is just full right now. I know Kaya spoke about the atmosphere in this room, but just being around this table with three young women who I can see are going to go on to do great things, not just professionally, right, but within their communities. And for me, I'm a mom of 4 daughters, right, and I'm still breathing. But they inspire me each and every day. And I know when I come across the youth such as you also inspire me in my work. So I start this off with saying, I never foresaw myself as an elected or appointed governmental position. I always saw myself as like my parents. I grew up in Bronx, New York. My parents were public service workers. My father drove a bus for the city, and my mother was a railroad underground clerk.
Mm-hmm.
But what I saw in them is just the ability to serve, right?
Mhm.
The folk they came across seamlessly. And so I took that to heart. I also fast forward from that point in my life, at the age of 19, it was a defining moment for me. I was a junior in college. Life was good. And at the same time, my life spiraled in a different direction when I suffered a massive brain hemorrhage. And I look back on that moment, and that truly was when it came to me, because I still was undecided in college what I ultimately wanted to do. I was an English major, but at the same time, I still had a passion to advocate for others and just be a servant in some form or fashion. So that experience, I saw how my medical professionals, doctors, nurses, everybody, they were making me whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I then reflected and said, well, what could it be that I could do in life to make others' situations whole? So I decided to go to law school. From there, got married. I, did various public service work in the law while in law school. So legal society, I want to say, working for the Steelworkers Union, graduated, still didn't say I was going to, throw my hat into the ring in terms of any government,
Mhm.
because I still felt like I'm a grassroots girl.
Mm-hmm.
So once I got married, came here in New Jersey, that's when I started to, volunteer and support nonprofits for women that were laser focused on women's needs.
Mhm.
And that's when I have to say the local Democratic Party, my name got out there through those efforts and some others. And I became a county commissioner back then. It's called a freeholder.
Mhm.
I went on and became a state administrative law judge. And that was a beautiful position for me because it was my two loves, law married with government, because administrative law judges oversee contested cases involving government. Okay. And after that, I stepped down. I again became engaged with local politics, if you will, with our female Democratic wing of the county party.
Mhm.
And I guess, that's when, I was very humbled. I still am. In which Governor Murphy in 2018, he asked me to serve as the 34th Secretary of State. And the Department of State that I oversee, I always say to everybody, it's one of the smallest yet mightiest departments. I'm sorry, Kaya, with DCA. I love DCA too, but we are mighty. And I say it because not only do I have the honor to oversee our state's elections, there are other portfolios that are diverse, meaning I have travel and tourism, I have a business action center, I have all of the cultural commissions, arts, historical. I led the 2020 census. And so I also can do a good deal of youth engagement,
Mhm.
Office of our volunteerism with AmeriCorps. And we'll get into this a little bit more in our discussion. And so then, sadly so, our former lieutenant governor, last year, we lost her. And that's when Governor Murphy asked if I could serve alongside him as his partner in government, second in command. And I am doubly humbled in this position because I'm able to expand my portfolio from Department of State. I still have elections top priority, especially now in this election season. But at the same time, I can look to other portfolios, double down, with him and our administration on reproductive freedoms, on wealth disparity, on higher ed, which is another passion of mine, with college affordability and mental health of our students. And also, just pre-K and early childhood education.
Okay, thank you so
I hope
much.
that wasn't War and Peace.
No, it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Okay.
It's very inspiring. I have to say, you are very inspiring. I personally, especially to me, because I want to help people when I grow
Amen.
up along in the medical field. So it really
Nice.
means a lot to me that you shared your experiences with us. And that also brings me to my next point about what you have done in high school or even in college to better your community.
Yeah, I look at that and I can say in high school, I had privilege and any opportunity. I mentioned my mother, right? Being that North Star as a railroad clerk, because she would come home and tell me that there would be homeless people around her station. And instead of just giving them money, what she would do is when she had her lunch break, she would go across the street and also buy them lunch. So with that being said, it's always been, a passion of mine to serve like homeless meals. And, that's what I did in high school. Now, moving forward, in college, I joined a sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, right? I love my sorors and I love the entire Divine Nine. But the one thing that I saw, and the reason why I was interested in my chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha in college, was I saw that there were women such as me who were mentoring young Taheshas in the city. And so that was one of my joys, right? Making certain that inner city child, that girl, because that was me, knew that there was someone there who saw them. Because, that was one of the challenges for me growing up, is just knowing or feeling that I was valuable too, societally. So, that was like the joy. I even had a little sister when I was in law school in Virginia. I squeezed in a little time. I wish I could have had more time for her. But nonetheless, it's always a good feel, right, when we can uplift our girls and be there for them.
Okay. We should move on to the next section.
Okay. So my first question is, I know civic engagement is an important part of the government's understanding the needs of their citizens. So my definition of civic engagement is just to help the community. So I wanted to know what your definition of civic engagement is.
We have the same we have the same definition, Amani, and I thank you for that. For me, civic engagement, and this is why I created the Jersey Civic Engage initiative within the Department of State, where we have a collaboration of about 70 partners, right, from all different sectors, pushing out our material. It's a healthy democracy, because that's what a healthy democracy is all about. It's about voting, right? Making sure you cast that ballot. And, I'm going to double down on that because I know, historically, folk like me, women, we were disenfranchised, right? So we really want to, and I'm urging you, I'm giving you three the assignment too, okay? To make sure that you have your friends understand what this is about. Okay. And, for me, it is healthy democracy, voting. It is about, okay, yeah, we all want to have a successful career, but guess what? We all have to contribute and give back to our communities, regardless of what profession we have. You don't have to be elected, appointed governmentally to have a certain impact to someone or to some corner, right, of your life. And that's what civic, and it is also making certain students, and this goes back again, right? This is a challenge, that they understand the roles of government officials.
Mhm.
I know for me, still to this day, I can be in a supermarket, okay? And I still have some residents who will come to me asking about their roads,
Mhm.
okay? And I'm saying to them, because they still think that I'm a county commissioner or something, you know, and I'm like, oh, I'm not a county commissioner anymore, but still you want to contact the X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
Folk really, you know, I come into you know, to schools, and I say this respectfully, I'm coming from a good place, because we all just want to, you know, make certain we have a clear understanding and be informed and educated. I'll come in, New Jersey Secretary of State, everyone's like, yay, yay, yay. And then everyone's like, well, what do you do? You know,
Mhm.
as New Jersey Secretary of State, because everybody understands what a president, vice president does, mayor does, right? But they don't understand some other layers of county government, right?
Mhm.
Or even state government, what you do, what is your role. So I just think that everybody really needs to you know, make certain that they're civically minded.
Mhm.
And I always tell voters, right, I want you to vote. I tell the electorate this, but I also say to them, I want you to be educated voters and know the rules and the regulations of New Jersey. And that's important too. When you tell your friends, you know, not only, okay, November 5th is the election, but no, understand, you know, there are 3 ways to vote in the great state of New Jersey and what those deadlines are.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was a very great answer. My second question is, what are some things we should know about government as young adults that we take for granted? For example, I know I don't have enough information about governors and things of that matter. So, what do you think is something that will put us on the right path to influencing legislation that will address issues within our community?
Yeah, you know, I thank you for that question. And I
Mhm.
look back at some of the young individuals that I've come across, and 2 of which, through my National Association of Secretaries of State, I gave out an award to, the John Lewis Awards to, for democracy. So I look at Ibele, who was the 6th grader from Cherry Hill, and how she testified before the state legislature about expanding African American education in our schools.
Mhm.
I look at Nitan, right, who is a Rutgers Camden student who started the Project 555, which spoke to bringing more of a youth engagement on voting into our high schools, nonpartisan wise, because that's what, you know, we all should be doing.
Mhm.
You know, just engaging folk, not telling them what to do.
Mhm.
I also think of, you know, the kids, I've seen them in the State House, Vote 16 USA, who are advocating fiercely,
Mhm.
fiercely for 16-year-olds plus to, you know, be able to cast that ballot. So with all that being said is, I always say to the youth, know the issue, right? And you can connect with folk in your community. You can go online, you can see who your district legislators are. You know, you can see who your county commissioners are if it's something that's local. And this again goes to the point of being, you know, educated as to who really handles what layer.
Mhm.
But, you know, outside of that, I know that there are various youth organizations too to be involved with. But again, the one thing that I always, you know, humbly ask young folk is, if you are going to have that passion for something, just make sure that you're educated on the issue
Mhm.
to ensure, like Ibele, because it got passed, expansion of African American studies in our school,
Mhm.
right? And like a Nitan who understands, okay, if I'm going to utilize my Project 555, I have to make certain that I'm strategic and ensuring that the youth around me are too going to engage in it.
Okay, that was wonderful. Now, my next question. I understand you've been here for a year. So, during your duties, what are some important lessons you learned about how to effectively empower communities to take charge of civic engagement and drive community change forward?
Yeah, I've done the lieutenant governor position just for a year, but with Secretary of State, which is really, the charge of voter engagement and civic participation. That's why I started the Jersey Civic Engage Initiative. And that actually was birthed out of our census effort because we saw how all of our, I think it was at that time, 80 or 90 partners, and this was during the pandemic, were so collaborative on and they really weren't on the street. I was about to say that because of COVID, but everybody, even the departments, and I, send kudos to my fellow colleagues at state government. Everyone was so engaged, and what happened? We shattered records in terms of the census and making sure that we did not lose a congressional seat, nor did we, or I should say, and we made certain we maintained, increased our federal funding, because that's what the census is all about for our 9.3 million residents. So another initiative that I have in my team, I applaud them all of the time, that we created was the College Ballot Bowl. I love this one because I am from a football family. I won't get into that. But I said, okay, let's do something which can parallel football and at the same time engage and incentivize our college students. So I created the College Ballot Bowl, which is a friendly, nonpartisan competition with all of our colleges and universities to see who could actually register the most voters and get the most voters to commit to go to the ballot box. We always have an opening ceremony, if you will. And this year we had 2-star giant players. In the years past, we've had participation with the Jets, with the 76ers, Giant, everybody. And then we have our touchdown ceremony after the election, in which we give our own version of the Vince Lombardi Trophy to the 3 conference winners. And it's been very successful. And the kids, they enjoy it and look forward to it every single year.
Okay, thank you so much. So now we're going to get on to our next section.
Yes. So first thing I want to say is I'm honored to be speaking with you.
I'm honored to be sitting next to you.
I wanted to say that I was also pretty much raised in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Yes. So I do think that it's an inspiration to know that someone that was, and I quote, raised in the hood, right? Was able to get out there and truly reach that incredible level that you have. And it really is that beacon of hope for all of us ambitious leaders, like youth leaders, right? That we can make it, right? If we do work hard. And my first question is, right, we know that of the many great things that you've done, you are Secretary of State. And as someone who's in that role, what do you think that the Department of State does to support residents and communities when we're in that election process?
We do. I have to credit my team. They work like all election officials throughout this state, 365 days, 24/7. And I think that the key here is communication. Not only are we trying to get folk to understand New Jersey's elections, we want folk to actually trust us with the integrity of elections. So, we've made certain that we have the public webinars, we have the portal, leading up to this election, we have the Tuesday trivia on Instagram because we know, folk are social media savvy. So that's, of course, another way in which we want to make certain that our communities are connected to us because, elections is a team sport. And that's why we not only collaborate with, our state partners, ensuring election security is out there, meaning our Homeland Security, Attorney General's office, We also connect with our federal partners, which is the United States Attorney General's Office, U.S. Homeland, USPS, and, our county folk, our IT folk. And speaking of our county folk, I know I've applauded them, but our county folk have been very good in also pushing out and educating, having messages about our elections, the importance, what you should know, what you should not know, your Bill of Rights too. Mm-hmm. So, it's a whole team effort, and we're just thankful. I look at the early voting records that we're shattering right now. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see the vote by mail. Yeah. We have over 60% right now of folk who have voted by mail, over 1 million of those who have voted. So this is what you look for. Mm-hmm. And I also was very proud in 2020, and I thank our youth voters out there for once ever in the history of New Jersey, or in this country. New Jersey actually was number 1 in youth voter turnout.
Wow.
Yes, even during the pandemic, we got the job done. So, very happy about that.
Yeah, we're pulling through. Yes. So that's certainly great. Mm-hmm. And we do think that education is definitely very key and very important for elections. And that brings me to my second point. Mm-hmm. I know that NJCDC, a large part of our mission, right, is to empower youth voice. And PYC, right, the Patterson Youth Council, is one way that we do that. And it's important, right, that everyone in our community knows how the youth feels, what they believe. And we know that we cannot vote, but we do know that it's important that our voices are heard, right, what we also believe about voting. So what do you think the Department of State and its administration does to promote youth voice during the election process?
Yeah, that's a fine question. Ileana, you rock. Probably because you're from the Bronx, girl. That's why you do it. But, I just wanted to be clear that you may not be able to vote, but guess what you can do? You can serve as a poll worker now. And look, I was there, it's a great way for additional income to come your way, but at the same time, you get to witness democracy in action. There's nothing better than that. I know specifically in terms of Department of State, that's, we have the Civic Engage, we have the Ballot Bowl, but, we also have the Governor's Office on Volunteerism. And I think that to me is one of the ultimate ways, right, to get into your communities. One of the focus of the volunteers is always on environmental. And that's just, to me, given, we understand things are changing, climate-wise. We want to be clear about that. We want to be forward-thinking, but, engaging in, areas like that, right? You can definitely do. So, I know that the administration too, like my Department of State, when you get in college, the internships you should always look for. I think oftentimes we overlook governmental internships, but they're important. Even if you want to, go into the private sector, right? Like for me, I am, an attorney, right? But at the same time, I think that I add to my attorney chops if I, were able to have, been in a governmental policy shop. Is very valuable. So these are just some of the ways in which, the youth can, continue to be engaged.
That's great. And a final question that I have is, any advice that you have for the youth that maybe are not as educated about how to vote? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I think that for the youth, they can go to vote.nj.gov, our portal. Everything in the world when it comes to New Jersey voting is there. And it's very seamless to go through it, right? Check out our page at the Department of State if they, and again, I think that you ladies, right, want to, once we're done, just say to perhaps 3 of your friends, hey, why don't you check out vote.nj.gov and keep it moving forward that way, so that everyone can have like that good understanding of what it means, right, to be an active citizen. Because one of the other things I want to lift up, this is through my historical commission, right? We are going to be celebrating, and I don't want to know if you know this, the 250th, okay, as they call it, the semi-quincentennial in 2026, July 4th, 2026. And I don't think that even a good number of our residents know that New Jersey is really the crossroads of the American Revolution. It's the understanding we have the most revolutionary sites. Everyone thinks that, and I'm saying this respectfully, that it's Philadelphia. They think that, it's Boston, Williamsburg, whatever. It is not. So, I think that if you too could tell them, go to revnj.org. We're going to have some programming within our schools lifting up this from like the civics lens, because the one thing that I've learned is you learn your past, right, for the present, so that you can create a better future. And that's what all of this is about. And of course, for us in New Jersey, we're going to tell, the entire story. We did that in 2020 with our 100th anniversary of women gaining the right to vote. We did not just say, clap our hands, yeah, women can vote. What we did was we said, well, no, we're going to tell the history about this and how marginalized minority women, still after the 19th Amendment, were disenfranchised. Okay, so that in hopes that, again, we can learn from this and create that brighter future for access to all in our democracy, Ileana.
That's great. And I think that now we are moving on to any questions that you may have for us.
Sure. I ask this one question oftentimes to the youth, and I want to know, Kayla, if you want to take the lead, how can government better connect and engage with you?
We believe that voting is very important. First off, especially the 3 of us, we can all attest to that. And you did too earlier in our conversation. And we believe that knowing how to vote it should be a part of the curriculum. We should be able to learn that in school, so we know what to do when we go out into the world, and we know how to research, and we know how to properly communicate our views and vote for candidates and things of that nature. And it also goes back to the point that Imani was making about how she does not feel like she has enough information on how to, like I said, go out in the world and vote and be on her own in that way. So I also think that's very important.
Okay, thanks. And that is a good point. And that's why I will repeat, vote.nj.gov.
Now, moving on to me, what Kayla said, I do as a senior. I'm 17. I'm graduating in a few months. I'm going to be 18 in a few months. So as a senior, I feel like I don't have enough information on how to vote, how to register to vote. So like Kayla said, I really do think that it should be required to be put in the curriculum, so students that are my age or like that are a senior can understand better and know the importance of voting.
Thank you for that.
I fully agree with my peers, and I'm coming from a place that I know that our students are not going to register to vote or maybe vote when they get that chance unless someone is pushing them, right? So that exposure to learning from very early on in our schools is crucial for us, because it's the way that we're going to learn the importance, as you said before, of voting in the state level, voting in the local level, because everyone knows the role of a president and a vice president. But even me, up until early, like couple maybe months ago, right, I didn't know how important it was to vote state level, local level, because that's what's affecting us first, right? And individually. So, yeah.
Yeah. You know, everything, the feedback, thank you so much, is important. I would just ask once more, right, to push out vote.nj.gov for your friends to understand that if you are 17, right, but the next election you'll be 18, that you can register online, and you can do that at vote.nj.gov. You know, I look at you, you know, you're the promise here, right, of our democracy. So you have to be those trusted voices, that battery of information. And, you know, I have, like I said, I have older daughters, and they have like their, you know, gatherings. I'll call them gatherings with friends. And, you know, take out your cell phones, just go to the website, right? And just show them this is what you can do. If you even have someone who is 18 years old who has voted, right? A family member. And if they voted by mail, they may not even know that we have a tool at vote.nj.gov to track your ballot. So they then can have like that confidence when they see the word received. Another thing, and please help me out with this, because, you know, if you have anyone in your family who's an eligible voter, friends who are eligible, and they have those doubts of, oh, well, you know, my vote doesn't get counted. My vote isn't counted. How do I know? On vote.nj.gov, there is the voter profile account, which will give you all of the information as to when you have voted for verification. Okay, you ladies can do this. Y'all were made for a time such as this. I am truly inspired, and I'm thankful that you're on my civics democracy team here.
I just wanted to ask you if you feel any connection between growing up in the Bronx and seeing the youth here in Paterson.
That's an excellent question. I'm thankful that you added. Now, you know, I always have a saying, you know one state, you know one state, right? So, you know, it is cities, both are cities. You can attest to this. The only thing that I can say is, again, that I just want our kids, no matter where you come from, to understand that you are valuable. You truly are. And I hope that everyone, the youth, can come to that awareness. It doesn't matter socioeconomically where you come from, because it's always where you're going. But always remembering, don't ever forget, because I know I may be a New Jersey girl, Passaic County, you know, I'm not in, you know, the inner city anymore. And I say this respectfully, but I know that I will always be Tahesha from the Bronx. I will always be that girl.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
So now we will bring back Bob, Eddie, and Kaya to the table.
Went smoother than I think we thought.
Well,
did an excellent job.
I'm just amazed. Lieutenant Governor Way, I think you can maybe better understand why I and NJCDC get so excited about working with the young people here in Paterson. You know, I think it's now 16 years ago, we had what some at the time thought was a radical idea to create the Paterson Youth Council, to give young people an opportunity to have a platform from which they could engage in civic discourse. And I think what you saw today was really an outcome of that. 3 very articulate, intelligent, young high school students, our future, who are really representative of so many of the young people of this city. And it's just wonderful that you took the time today to have this conversation with them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Lieutenant Governor, I echo Bob's sentiments, and also just our student rock stars. I talked to the young ladies before, and they all seem science and STEM inclined, but don't forget podcasting. You can multi-hustle this. I think you got a talent in the making here.
That's right.
this is so humbling for me because when I was a little girl, and I grew up in Jersey, I have roots in Virginia, right? So, multiple transplants, right? And to see someone like you that's in this position of influence and making change and being able to bring our youth talent that are out there every day, right? It represents the millions of families in New Jersey, right? And hearing your story and also hearing from our students, the two lessons I feel like we take from this is remembering our foundational roots, right? Because this really comes so full circle, for you, Lieutenant Governor. And that the service leadership, I think that you've described of yourself, of Governor Murphy, and I think of Department of State and all the state governments and NJCDC, it reminds me that we are more connected and bonded in making things better, right? Being that change. And so we thank you. This is, I think, a dream realized for us just to kind of have this. We want to share this out, especially in this important time. And I wanted to make sure that we really left you with the mic at the end, because we'd like to hear from you. Any important messaging besides, again, going to vote.gov, getting there, that you wanted to be able to give to New Jersey residents while we're in such an important season?
Oh yeah, we're definitely an important season. I just again want to remind. First, let me just thank New Jersey voters for showing up. I voted the first day of early voting, and I was in line, a long time, which is good. And then I've been checking on various polling locations, and I'm complimenting New Jersey voters because everyone just has that passion. They want to have their voice heard. No one's grumbling or anything like that. So we just want to remind voters, to continue to understand, the assignment of ensuring that voices are heard. Right.
Yes.
And, I also want to remind voters that, you got to keep this up, not just for the federal presidential races, but we even have fire district races locally.
Yes.
No one votes for those. And, again, I'm coming from a good place here. School board races, we need to really increase those numbers too, because this is our kids.
Yes.
We're talking about the 3 young ladies. We're talking about youth participation here. This is our children and how they have to take the baton from us, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Generationally.
Yes.
And we want to ensure that they're equipped fundamentally with all that they need to be the productive citizens within their communities and their professional spaces.
Yes.
And we want to ensure that every child understands that they have value. I know I didn't speak about this, but, growing up in the Bronx, we did touch upon, how I felt invisible, right? Like the invisible man Ralph Ellison spoke about.
Yes.
But, my parents would take me to the local toy store almost every single week, Kaya and team. And I was just looking for a black Barbie doll at that time, and I could not even find one. And the reason why I was trying to find that doll was just because I wanted to be seen and have something to hold and cherish to show that, this little girl from the Bronx, New York, too, right, is of value.
Yes.
And so I call upon all New Jerseyans who are eligible to vote, show your value, okay, to yourself, and think about the idea of beyond yourself as you casting your ballot. This is about, making sure voices are heard and futures are made and met.
That's wonderful.
And I feel like your theme about, remembering that past so it informs our present and leads to the future, right? You've spoken so notably about the history, right? And Department of State and the importance of voting and civic engagement. People gave up their lives for this.
Amen.
And that Barbie doll, like you said, it's exciting because we've got more representatives and people in these rooms making those decisions. And we're in that present, but we've got this future in front of us that gives me hope and really soul food. So we thank you.
So exciting. So thank you, Lieutenant Governor Way, for gracing us this morning with your time and your presence. And really, I think for helping us to, once again, amplify the youth voice on a topic as important as voting and civic engagement. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I echo what was being said. Thank you for coming back to Passaic County. Thank you for coming back to Patterson.
Yes.
And thank you for sharing your story with us and the youth of Patterson. And just know this is your home. You're always welcome back. And through DCA and Kaya, we're hoping that you will. So thank you for coming and welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for everything NJCDC does. Of course, DCA, lift you guys up too. My colleagues.
We love being on the team.
And I love it too. So thank you, Kaya. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.